This video is going to go over some basic unit conversions. It's going to start with just a simple conversion, converting feet to meters. Next, it will look at compound units, something like miles per hour, meters per second, converting between those. And then the third example we'll look at will be converting areas and volumes. Anytime you're doing a conversion, you're essentially taking the quantity and multiplying by 1. You're not multiplying by the number 1, but you're multiplying by a fraction whose numerator and denominator are equivalent to each other. And so because the numerator and denominator mean the same thing, you're not changing the quantity itself. When you go to set up the conversions, you're going to set up your fraction. You figure out which one is in the numerator and which one is in the denominator by making sure that the units that you're converting from divide out. So this first example, converting 316 feet to meters. We start by just writing our original quantity, 316 feet. And now I'm given this conversion factor that 1 meter equals 3.28 feet. Sometimes this is given, sometimes you might need to look this up, but we have these conversion factors. So 1 meter is equivalent to 3.28 feet. And so the fraction that I'm going to multiply by is either going to be 1 meter over 3.28 feet, or it's going to be 3.28 feet over 1 meter. We put one of the conversion factors in the numerator, the other one in the denominator. And for this, we set it up so that it's 1 meter over 3.28 feet. And the reason we do that is because in the original quantity, I have feet in the numerator. Here I have feet in the denominator, so they will divide out. And so when I multiply this out, I get that 316 feet is equivalent to 96.342 meters. So simple one-step conversions are fairly straightforward. You just look and make sure that the unit you're converting from is in the denominator. You have to be a little bit more careful when there are multiple units. So for example, converting 25 miles per hour to meters per second. The thing that throws people off the most is this miles per hour. You have to recognize that that's miles in the numerator and hours in the denominator. And what I tell people to do is to rewrite this. 25 miles per hour really means 25 miles over 1 hour. It's 25 miles per 1 hour. Per means divide by. So it's 25 miles in 1 hour, 25 miles divided by 1 hour. And so rewriting it this way helps you to see that this hour is in the denominator. We have 25 miles in the numerator, we have 1 hour in the denominator. And so I'm going to need to use two conversion factors. I'm going to need to go from miles to meters, and I'm given the conversion factor. 1 mile is 1,609 meters. And I'm also given the conversion factor that 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. If that one's not given, there's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. 60 times 60 gives you the 3,600 seconds in an hour. So first I'm going to go from miles to meters. And so I'm going to use this first conversion factor, and I'm going to have my 1,609 meters in the numerator and my 1 mile in the denominator. And I do that because these miles in the numerator here are divided out by these miles in the denominator here. So just with that conversion factor, if I did that multiplication, I would have meters per hour. But I don't want meters per hour, I want meters per second. And you could go through and just do that one step and get meters per hour and rewrite that number. But we can do this all at once. And so my second conversion factor, I have that 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. Because hours are in the denominator in the original quantity, I'm going to need hours in the numerator. I need 1 hour over 3,600 seconds. Because now this hour in the numerator is divided out by this hour in the denominator. And I'm left with, when I divide out all my quantities, I'm left with meters in the numerator and seconds in the denominator. So when I multiply this out, I get that 25 miles per hour is 11.173 meters per second. In physics, this is a common conversion that we need to be able to do. In America, we're used to speeds being given in miles per hour. Speed limits, the speedometer of the car. We understand miles per hour better than we understand meters per second. And so being able to do this conversion helps you understand if your answer makes sense. Just as a rough rule of thumb, to go from miles per hour to meters per second, you roughly cut the miles per hour in half. It's a little less than half, but going from miles per hour to meters per second, just to get a rough idea of it, you divide by 2. And to go from meters per second to miles per hour, just to get a rough idea to understand the quantity, you would double it. So 15 meters per second is roughly 30 miles per hour. It's a little more than 30 miles per hour, but again, if you're just trying to understand how fast that is, just that quick, rough conversion works. The final example I want to look at is converting areas and volumes. If possible, my recommendation is to convert the dimensions to the correct units before you multiply it out. If you're given a length and a width and a height, convert them before you multiply them together to get volume. But you can't always do that. You're often given things like square feet, square meters, cubic inches. And so if you're given the quantity in square feet, square meters, and you need to do the conversion, you need to make sure that you use the conversion factor the correct number of times. You have to multiply the conversion factor for each unit. So that's using it twice if you have square feet, using it 3 times if you have cubic feet. And the easiest way to understand that is if I look at 500 square feet. Square feet, what that means is that's really feet times feet. It's the units of feet squared. The 500 is not squared. It's 500, and the units are feet times feet. And if you write it out that way, which is what I recommend to my students, having each unit of feet written out makes it very clear that you're going to use the conversion factor twice. You're going to use it once to convert one of the units of feet. You're going to use it a second time to convert the other units of feet. So we're given a conversion factor from a couple slides ago. 1 meter equals 3.28 feet. And so when I set this up, I'm going to have meters in the numerator, feet in the denominator. So I have 1 meter over 3.28 feet. But if I just do that conversion factor, that only gets rid of one of my units of feet. If I just did that, my units on my final answer would be feet meters, not square meters. It only converted one of the units of feet to meters. And so to convert that other unit of feet to meters, I need to use the conversion factor a second time. So I multiply by 1 meter over 3.28 feet again. And so now the units of feet divide out. And so when I multiply this all out, we can see that the units that are left, I'm going to have meters times meters, which is square meters. And that's going to give me that 500 square feet is equivalent to 46.475 square meters. And so when doing the conversions, make sure that you set things up so that the unit you're trying to convert from divides out. Be careful when that unit is in the denominator because that's going to affect how you set up your fraction. You need that unit in the numerator of your conversion factor. And be careful when you have areas and volumes so that you make sure that you use the conversion factor the correct number of times.